right, so before we get into the jam, let me walk you through what's happening in the case. First, I have my kick. I'm using the 1U Mosaic. Super little beefy 1U module. Next, I have the Disting EX. And what I have is a bunch of multi-samples dumped into here. I multi-sampled one of my VSTs that I really enjoy using. And I'm using the SD trigger algorithm. And I'm using this just mainly for top percussion. I have the percussion routed out of the disting on this first channel 1 through the MMF filter by WMD. And if anybody knows me, you know how much I love filters. Super performable there. And I'm taking another sample from the same Disting EX, but I'm routing it through an alternative output. And that output is being routed out of channel 3 here into the variable delay by 1U, another 1U Mosaic module, and into a channel on the Cosmix. The Cosmix is my main mixer for the jam today, and let's listen to that. So this delay is a lot of fun, easy to perform with, has a freeze. Let's change the parameter. I could keep doing this all afternoon, but hey, all right. All right, so next, I want to move over to this side of the case. I'm using the vector sequencer with the expander. The sequencer I use quite often. And I'm using the trigger outs to trigger the disting as well as the drum, as the kick here. So that's where the percussion is being sequenced. And I am sequencing the Polycinematic by Knobula, but I'm using the MIDI output. So I'm taking the disting output here. I could have used MIDI 1 and 2, but I had this cable handy, so I just popped this in, used the MIDI dongle into the input on the Polycinematic. This is, I believe it's type A. I'm using the IntelliGel dongle right now, but it does come with its own dongle. I think it's like a nice blue, the same color as the panel. But yeah, so I thought I really want to use MIDI to take advantage of the chord capabilities of sequencing on the Victor, along with some mono sequencing, but really take advantage of the 8 voices. So this, the name of this module, Polycinematic, 8-voice polyphonic synthesizer. And today we are just going to really just focus on it and just changing the parameters, having fun. I have a nice simple sequence, drum sequence happening. And that's the sequence we're going to use there, because again, we're going to kind of focus on this module and really dial it in and see what we can get out of it. All right, so let's start. So the sequencer, I'm using the vector sequencer. Let me mute some of these sequences. So the drum sequence is being sequenced over here on part 7 and 8, or channel 7 and 8. I made a pretty basic housey drum pattern because I really want to focus on what the Polycinematic can do. So yeah, let's start bringing in some of the parts. So first I will play this part for you. Let me kind of mute that. And nothing too crazy, right? So far. Let me open up the filter on that. I'm gonna mute that. This module also has a built-in reverb for the effect on here. Here's another sequence. So basically what I'm doing is I want to take advantage of the 8 voices. So on one part of the vector, I'm sequencing chords. So here are some chords. Another channel, I have a little bit slower sequence happening. Right? And then on this one, I have another sequence. Sounds a little simple right now. But But when I unmute everything and kind of bring everything in, let's have a listen to that. So. So let me do a little jam to kind of put it into context for you. Really switch it up. the other pattern. Ready? Very housey. I like house. It's nice with a Sunday afternoon. Second. Let's try the random ones. Let's try a Berlin style sequence and utilize the randomization. Turn up the reverb. Different wave. There we go. Let's put those little shakes back in, guys. 2 notes. Stop it for just a second. So right here on this channel, we have the main sound. Let me go back here. The sequence. Actually, let me just mute this channel first. So here we have the main sequence happening. On here we have another stab. But the polyphony on it. Let's open up the reverb. Wild. Try another wave, same mode. Let's see. Let's try this one. It's like that organ. Open up the filter, the reverb. The filter on this is really nice. There's the notch, high pass, low, the resonance on it. Let's go back. Turn down the reverb so we can change the detune. Close the attack here. There we go, right? Let's add another sequence. Let's fix the sequence. let's use a gate since we have one here. There we go. So what are we sending into it? Let's see. All right, so if we go here, we can look right away. 16th notes. So that's triggering the filter frequency. So without it, adding it. Nice. Let's trigger it less. Now this trigger 3 is 8. Techno groove there. Still using the same basic drum pattern, although I did kind of push the clappy snare over, but other than that, same shake happening. Fifths, so putting the detune to fifths. Let's change the timing for this gate. Let's go with dotted. Let's go with quarter first. So now we're triggering the filter frequency with quarter notes. Let's bump the detune up to the octave. Back down to Unison. Back in the housey zone. Let's switch up the wave and detune. Let's see. polycinematic. So instead of quarters, let's try something different. Let's try dotted eighth notes. Let's see what happens. So I'll be triggering the frequency with dotted eighth notes. Bubbly. Pump up that resonance rate. Let's trigger it less here. Let's try it back down to quarter. Let's shift the sequence. Let's try another random sequence. Make sure we're in the right key. We're F minor. God, I love this sequencer. All right. Don't want to think too much. We just want to focus on the polycinematic. Let's mute these other sequences. Turning the knobs, getting different tones. Randomize the sequence. Let's add another layer of sequence. Let's go here. Let's go to empty sequence. Screw it. Let's just keep randomizing. Why not? What type of sequence? Let's go with. Let's try acid style sequence. Let's try that. And let's unmute it. This is going to be wild. I have no idea what it's going to sound like, but let's try it. Sounds kind of cool. So now we have the two sequences, sequencing the polycinematic. Playing with it and seeing what I can get out of it, and this is one way that let me see here. So by patching and throwing together a small case and throwing in a module that I want to try to get to know, this is one way. This is actually a main way that I like to get to know my modules. I put it into a smaller, more compact system, and I focus on it. I make maybe a basic pattern. In this case, I'm using the percussion I mentioned out of the Disting, sequencing with the expander of the vector, and really taking advantage of the randomization of patterns on the vector, so I can focus on the polycinematic and really just turn the knobs and dial in and make a mental note of some of these settings and where it's taking me with sonically and what I need to do to get back to a certain parameter, which ones I like, which ones I don't want to say I don't like, but which ones I like more. I like things a little more aggressive, but I also like those housey tones. And I like with this flip of the switch, I can just immediately kind of get back to that organ vibe. Let me... on detune. Fun. This has been a long video, but basically it's just noodling and jamming, getting to know the module. I like that filter. Jump back to one of these patterns before we end it. To Housey Sunday. All right, well, thanks for tuning in. Hopefully you enjoyed the little jam and dive into the poly cinematic. This module's been a lot of fun to play with. It's super performable, and I can't wait to dig into it more and put it into my bigger performance case.
Thank you.